Hello, Commentation here, another Topic of the Week video, and this week, let's talk a little bit about Star Wars, particularly Disney Star Wars movies, and why they're just, overall, just, bleh. This week's topic was submitted by Zethbro on the Discord, and their topic is, why The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi are not creative. We all know the two installments aren't, with defenders claiming we needed The Last Jedi to keep the franchise alive when Star Wars was doing perfectly fine. And the franchise wasn't about subverting every plot point either. Let us not forget the other Last Jedi publication that came out before the 2017 movie. Way to go, Ruin Johnson, on creating a unique title for a movie that's keeping the franchise alive. And oh, I'm guessing there's a ton of sarcasm dripping off that last line. There's a very simple explanation for why these are bad. I've talked about bad writing in these movies in previous videos. But let's just take a step back and look at it from a production standpoint. There's a reason why these movies aren't good. It's because they were made with one thing in mind. Money. Cue ABBA song. They're soulless corporate cash-ins. That's all they are. I mean, you can tell when Disney was desperate to rush, The Force Awakens out the door. You can see when they slapdashed Rebels together when they canceled the Clone Wars, and they threw Rebels out the door before it was really ready. And the first season of Rebels was okay, but just, it didn't really get interesting until the end of the season when Ahsoka comes in, and then you actually had some interesting stuff in season 2. And then they ruined it because they had corporate idiots running the creative decisions. But this isn't about Rebels. But The Force Awakens had potential. If you had good writers behind it, which they didn't. If you had soul behind it, which they didn't. And if you had a genuine desire to make a great Star Wars movie that continued on the legacy, which they didn't, maybe you could have done something good. You want to know the real difference between The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rogue One? It's because there were people behind Rogue One that actually cared about Star Wars, particularly Gareth Edwards. That makes all the difference in the world. If you have people behind this that genuinely care, like if J.J. Abrams genuinely cared about making Episode 7 of the Star Wars saga, we could have had a great movie. We could have. We genuinely, this is the thing, Disney, this is freaking Disney. They have endless amounts of money. It's like, and there's high production value in these movies. The special effects are amazing. There's a lot of money pumped into them. Unfortunately, they didn't really put that into the writing, which baffles me. Why wouldn't you? I don't understand this mindset that, we'll just throw anything out. The fans will like it. We don't even have to try to write something interesting. We'll just tell them, hey, practical effects. And yeah, they'll go and see the movie. Oh, look, Han Solo. Oh, it's Leia. It's like, and this is the problem. These movies are they're soulless. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi are soulless. Solo too, but the less we talk about Solo, the better. It's really amazing when you watch Rogue, because it's so funny. I consider Rogue One to be good enough to marathon with the previous 6 George Lucas movies. I love Rogue One. I wouldn't touch The Force Awakens with a 10-foot pole. I wouldn't touch The Last Jedi with a 20-foot pole. Because these movies don't have any heart in them. And you see this a lot, especially this keeps coming up. It's been coming up for years. Of, you fans, you just want a movie that you like. Well, yeah, duh, we're Star Wars fans. We'd like to like a Star Wars movie. And that's the mindset behind these people. They don't care what you think. When it comes to the politics, look, we have a strong female character. Okay, is she a well-written, strong female character? Like Sarah Connor? Alan Ripley? No? No? She's just a Mary Sue? Well, that's fine. I'm sure a lot of the people are going to love her character. Wait a minute. No, we don't. And you know what? I was so ready to love Rey, but when you see just how bland her character is, it's like, if they had an ounce of the love that Luke had, even Anakin, for all the times people complain about Anakin, Anakin was a much, much more relatable character than Rey. Because for all of his faults that George Lucas has, especially some of the clunky and awkward dialogue, he cared about those characters and telling a story. These people don't. And it's really the corporate mindset is, we have Star Wars. We want to make Star Wars movies. So let's just shove everything out the door. They wanted a movie a year. The Last Jedi and Solo killed that because thankfully Solo bombed. And I'm glad they started canceling a lot of these other movies because holy crap, I don't trust them with anything now. Ultimately, it really comes down to someone like Kathleen Kennedy. And it's so funny, I'd never heard of Kathleen Kennedy before the Last Jedi fiasco. She doesn't care about Star Wars. She'll lie to anyone's face. She lied to George Lucas and talk about how she'll take care of these characters. She doesn't. She just wanted money. She took over Lucasfilm. So let's just cram stuff out the door. And I kind of want to talk about this in like another video at some point, but when you're writing something, especially as part of a franchise, you have to care about the fans. The fans are what they're what fuel these movies. They're what fuel all fiction. You have people who like it, who give money to it. And when you keep telling them, screw you, I don't care what you think. If you don't want to go see my movies, then screw you all. It's like, it's so arrogant. And that's these arrogant corporate idiots who think that they can just do whatever and people will bow down to them. Now granted, that worked with The Force Awakens, but only because they had the hype of, oh, a new Star Wars movie. That's really all they had going for it. And that hype was real. That hype affected me too. Like, I'm not going to lie, it took me a few weeks before I actually was able to admit, yeah, The Force Awakens was not good. I mean, The Last Jedi, it's like, people were just shocked. And it's the thing, and you have Rian Johnson, the guy who doesn't care about Star Wars, destroys everything in Star Wars. Seriously, this guy practically sinks a franchise, a long-running 40-plus year franchise, a titan of a franchise, that even when there weren't new movies or anything going on, it was still making money. That's how good Star Wars was. That's how untouchable Star Wars was. And these guys managed to muck it up. It's arrogance. When I write stuff, I think about what the audience wants. Because I do this a lot, especially with rewrites. And I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people tend to like my rewrites. Is because while I am doing a lot of the stuff that I want to see in a story, I also do take into consideration what fans overall want. Now, obviously, I don't just throw in every single fan idea. But I think of something of, would the fans like to see this? And I generally like to please the fans. At least I go in with that mindset. At best, I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm just some guy who might post a story online. And I'm not guaranteed more than, a few thousand people are ever going to see it. But I'm thinking of, what will the audience like? You have these people who make millions, who it's literally their job to make movies that people want to see. And all they can think of is, you want something? You want to enjoy this movie? I am too busy to let you enjoy a movie. It really pisses me off. It genuinely pisses me off whenever I see these people go, oh, well, you just expected too much. It's like, you know what? There are certain people who go into stuff expecting too much. But the general person who's complaining about something, they just want something good. Something at least decent. And when they don't get it, they're like, well, that wasn't good. And then you go, how dare you call me out? And I always like to bring up this example of, can you imagine a chef doing the stuff that these people in Star Wars are doing? What J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy and all these other actors who jump in to throw hissy fits. It's like, can you imagine if you went to a restaurant and you buy a steak in this place known for steaks. So you're like, I'm going to get a good frickin' steak, right? And then they come out and they serve you a bowl of old, cold mashed potatoes and like a bone sticking out of it. And you're like, what is this? This is crap. And they're like, the chef gets mad at you and he's like, how dare you? You don't have to eat this. This is my steak. I don't care if it's mashed potatoes. It's my steak. If you're, how dare you expect too much? That's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with these people. We'll just throw out bad writing. We'll just throw out lore-breaking nonsense. We'll just completely break canon. Oh, people complained about the midichlorians. Oh, yeah, they complained about midichlorians. They complained about Anakin being an awkward teenager. Oh, I heard people claim that destroyed canon. Oh, no. No. These movies break canon. Hey, did you want to see anything good after Revenge or Return of the Jedi? Nope. It all goes up in flames, making everything, all the previous 6 movies, completely pointless. Congratulations, guys, you managed to, in your total arrogance, destroy a franchise. A franchise as indestructible as Star Wars, which as much as people ragged on the prequels, that never killed the franchise. And I can tell you why. Because the prequels, despite any flaws they have, were made with love and care. George Lucas genuinely wanted to make those movies. He didn't make them just to make money. But even then, he still listened to fans. When people complained about Jar Jar's screen presence dwindled down to nothing but a cameo by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith. Because, yeah, people didn't like him. So his character got severely toned down. Oh, wow, what a shock, listening to criticism. But this thing, these people don't listen to criticism. That's so important. As a writer, I need to tell anyone who's an aspiring writer, anyone who's an established writer, let me tell you, listening to criticism is extremely important, and that's what these people don't do. That's why these movies suck. These people don't care about criticism. They don't. They think they're perfect already. No one's perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. Even if I'm super confident in a story, I've gotten criticism for some of the things I'm writing. Some of it's grammar, but there are some times when people don't quite understand something that I'm saying, or some don't understand part of a story, and then I have to realize, wait a minute, I hadn't quite thought this out, and I realized, oh, I left myself with a plot hole here, so then I have to change the story to fix it. It's important. It's an extremely important part of writing. And yes, you have to understand why something is bad. You have to understand why you messed up. And sometimes you're just going to have to look at a criticism and go, okay, well, that's just wrong. But these people, Rian Johnson can't admit to anything. J.J. Abrams doesn't admit to any of the faults. None of these people do. These people are just throwing, you're just harassing me with Russian troll bots on Twitter. Oh, you just hate women, right? No. They're not creative because, frankly, the people making them don't care. We as fans care. That's why you see so many people getting worked up over The Last Jedi. Even if The Force Awakens was almost as bad, you know, The Last Jedi was so bad, you got even the people who are just normies, people who didn't even actually critically look at The Force Awakens going, what the hell was that? It's because these people aren't trying to make good movies. And here's the thing. People talk about them copying the movies, and that's part of it. Or copying the original trilogy. That's a little part of it. You can see The Force Awakens heavily borrows from the plot of A New Hope. It does. That's part of it. But it's not the entire reason. Because if it was a rehash, if it was properly done, it could still work. But the problem is that then they want to recreate the setting and all of the circumstances. So it's like, hey, no more Jedi? Well, let's just destroy Luke's order, because he was going to build that at the end of Return of the Jedi. So it's like, yeah, let's just destroy it. I mean, shoot. If they had at least said, oh, well, he managed to hide his students or something like that, and be like, and they're hiding away. They're hiding on Octu with them or something like that. Anything. But no, they go for the most bland and most unoriginal ideas. And yeah, and the thing they mentioned, there was a book called The Last Jedi. I don't know anything about it. I genuinely don't know anything about it other than it came before The Last Jedi movie. Like Ryan. Ruin. Ron. Whatever. You can't even come up with your own unique name for this movie? Sheesh. I mean, granted, this is the same guy who just blows through with his first draft. Like, I don't need to make any changes. Kathleen Kennedy won't say anything to me. I'm a good boy. Oof. That's the thing, is that they don't rein these people in. Rian Johnson, I think, could direct something good if he was reined in and not touching the script at all. And it's so disappointing to see Star Wars to be so disorganized and so messy. It's basically like the MCU now. I mean, geez, that's terrible. I mean, it's just a complete mess where anyone can basically just do whatever they want. Like, J.J. Abrams did his thing, and then Rian Johnson says, I don't like that, I'm doing whatever I want. And then I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we get to episode 9, JJ's like, okay, well, forget that, I'm doing my own thing again. And it's like, okay, well, then what do you even have? We're going to end up with the last part of a trilogy, and they're just going to be like, okay, we're just really getting started here. And it's like, okay, then why did you waste our time? They didn't plan this out. I mean, they should have planned this out. They had the time. They didn't need to rush a movie out. They had the time to plan out a trilogy, to set everything up, to make it an amazing, amazing trilogy. Disney can make good movies. These are not them. And frankly, it's a miracle Rogue One came out as good as it did. I mean, maybe it's just because Kathleen Kennedy wasn't micromanaging every single aspect of it. Maybe it's because she didn't fire the director of it more than halfway through. It was like, what? Wasn't Solo like 3/4 of the way done when they fired Lord and Miller? It's just all these insane decisions behind the scenes are really why these movies are uncreative. And I think that's about it for this, because honestly, I'm just getting really worked up and pissed off about this, thinking about how these people had the golden opportunity to create a sequel trilogy to Star Wars, to pick up where everything left off, to introduce us to new characters. And they take all of the expansive stuff that George Lucas did with the Clone Wars and the prequel trilogy, all these new worlds, and it's like they took all of that great stuff, the world building, they threw it all out and kept it so insular. It's more restrictive than the OT. And the original trilogy didn't really have too much in the way. I mean, yeah, maybe a couple of, planets in a movie, but really nothing too crazy. The prequels had a lot of variety in them. You can tell George Lucas went hog wild on that. And I know that even people who aren't big fans of the prequels still like that, still like the stuff, still like Coruscant, still like Naboo, still like seeing all these different worlds and all the different stuff that was going on. It really felt like it opened up the universe. And well, they should be taking stuff from the original trilogy and then these expansive ideas from the prequels and sort of mixing them together to create the ideal Star Wars. That, oh, we've now opened up the world again. No, let's shrink it back. Let's shrink it back. We have to be like the original trilogy. It's what people like, right? Yes, but they don't like them because of exactly what happened to them. Like, oh, well, we can just transplant that into a new story. Oh, no, you can't do that. It's not creative. It's creatively bankrupt. It's awful. It's stupid. And it shows not only a complete misunderstanding of the writing process, but a complete misunderstanding of just how movies work. Like, this is literally your guys' job. You make movies. And you can't even make a halfway decent Star Wars movie. You have The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens just being complete and utter nonsense. It's disappointing. It's absolutely disappointing because with all the resources at Disney's disposal, with one of the most valuable brands and franchises in history, and they don't even bother to try. You couldn't spare a little expense for this? You couldn't spare to spend a little bit more time working on a story that would really work? It just shows how much these people don't care. They thought that Star Wars would always be printing money. Well, it's like, yeah, if you did something good with it. And made movies so bad, they've killed Star Wars. I'm interested to see how Episode 9 does. Just because Solo managed to bomb. I mean, I don't know if an Episode 9 is going to bomb, but certainly don't see it doing well. And even if they do try to fix things now, you're 3 movies deep in a trilogy. You can't start to fix things now. It's like Ruby in Volume 6 going, oh wow, we've had problems for the last 4 years. We're going to try to start fixing stuff now. You can't just do that. It's a mess. It's a big fat mess. And honestly, Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, Jar Jar Abrams, you deserve that name. All you idiots, you're to blame for killing Star Wars. I think that's about it. I'm about done on this topic. I'm done ranting. So if you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube. If you're on Tumblr, you can send me an ask and put topic : then whatever topic you want me to talk about. If you're on the Discord, you can submit it through the topic submissions channel. Just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below, or the ones that are on my About page. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So, why do you think the new Star Wars movies aren't creative? I'm sure there's plenty of reasons that I didn't cover, and you can comment below. And thank you for watching.